Welcome to the Youth Pulse podcast with me, Dico the Andrew, where we dive each and every time and we speak from our hearts because when it comes to the Youth Pulse podcast, we are speaking from our heart. And this episode, it's the 14th episode of it all. And our topic of discussion today, we're going to be talking about power of youth in driving sustainable development goals. And each and every time we do have a guest, so why not we welcome them to Youth Pulse podcast. How are you guys?
Hi.
I'm doing well.
How? Ito kung ako kay mo, diba, Fura? You look so glowy and happy.
Thank
yeah,
you.
yeah.
Okay, you guys are welcome to the Youth Pass podcast, and I think you can just introduce yourself. What are you guys doing? Are you guys student? What talent do you guys have? So the people to know you as well.
All right. My name is Beatrice Doki. I am a medical student at the University of Juba. Also, I am a writer, storyteller. And what is latest about me is a Yali alumni.
Yay! Whoa, that's a quite one.
My name is Michael Julius. I'm an applied sciences student at the University of Juba. I'm also a volunteer teacher and a concerned citizen.
Okay.
Thank you.
I hope you don't teach maths and physics because finishing them that's what.
No, I don't eat much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. When it comes to our topic of discussion of today, we're going to be talking about power of youth in driving sustainable development goals, which is in bracket, that is SDG. In a simple way, how can you both define SDG?
To me, sustainable development goals, these are 17 goals that are chosen to drive development that can last for a long time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, according to me, the sustainable development goals are goals that are working in order for people to not live in poverty, in order for us to protect the planet, and in order for the world to live in peace and prosperity.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's interesting. And in what ways do you guys think young people can influence policy making governance relatable to sustainable development?
Well, recently, I'll take an example of Kenya because their Gen Zs are more active. So, how they influence their policies there is by doing rallies and then also pledging for support or maybe for job opportunities. Because the last time they pledged that they need to clean their cities because they are graduates and they are also jobless and their city is dirty. So instead of just staying back at home, they can be given the opportunity of volunteering, but a paid volunteerism where they will clean their city and yet it's working.
Okay.
Yeah.
When it comes to the goals, there are many of them, but I feel like we should just be just picking some 2 to 3 points of it so that people will be knowing like what is the sustainable development goals is all about. Which are some of the points that you think like we can talk about today?
According to me, I feel that the sustainable goal number 16 is the most important in the context of South Sudan because at the moment, we need peace, we need strong institutions, and we need justice to prevail in the country. So if we have peace and we have strong institutions in the country, we can have quality education. We can also have institutions that will work so hard in order to adapt to the climate change that is ongoing at the moment. And we can also stop poverty by farming, and also we can have gender equality.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. You can add on?
Well, what I think we should work on is SDG number 8, that is decent job and employment, because we people are graduating every year, and those are the youths, and we are the majority in the country. And if we are left unemployed, of course, our country is going to an end because we will engage in criminal activities and then use other means which are bad, and then we lead our country not to attain the sustainable development.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
One point you mentioned about education, in which I will also like you to mention what role does education and lifelong learning play in equipping youth with the skills necessary for driving the sustainable development goals?
I think when we have a quality education in the south, in our country, South Sudan, young people can know the necessary skills that are needed in order for them to achieve these goals. Necessary skills like critical thinking, and then we come to innovation as well. Because at the moment, when you look at most of the schools in South Sudan, people focus much on theory
Yes,
instead
than
of
practical.
practicals. So you find that the system is designed in a way that a pupil that is capable or a student that is capable to innovate something cannot innovate because he's just forced to cram things and just to learn without
Yeah.
practicing them.
That's for
So
sure.
it becomes so hard to achieve some of these goals. More importantly, the goal that deals with innovation.
Yeah.
So if we have a strong vocational schools equipped with everything, equipped with technology, they can be able to do that. And I feel if somebody is also educated, if we have a quality education, the young people can be able to speak up for themselves.
Yeah.
The problem with so many youth today is because they don't know their rights, they are not educated on their rights. That's
Yeah.
why they cannot speak up. But if you're educated on your rights, that's the role that education can play. Now, if you compare to the other countries, you find that young people are so educated in a way that if something is done and it's not favoring them, they speak up.
Yeah.
But here it's a different case. You find that so many youths are illiterate, and you find that people are divided on ethnic basis.
Yeah.
We have relative defense forces or whatever. It's just,
That's for
it's,
sure.
it's a
My
term
bad,
that is
Hagiga.
being used nowadays.
Yeah.
So if we are educated enough, I'm sure these things will not be there. We'll focus on achieving these 17 goals by 2030 if possible. But I don't know for the case of South Sudan,
I
when are we
myself-
going to achieve them? Because
Yeah.
the United Nations, they adopted the goal in 2018, as I said before, and they
Yeah.
wanted to implement them by 2030.
Yeah.
So when did South Sudan start implementing it? That's
The-
a question that
The,
we
the,
all
the
need to
review
ask
was done
ourselves.
this year, right?
Yeah.
Imagine the review was just done this
Just
year.
this
in
year,
which
and we'll have to it.
4 years.
تقريبا 5 سنة أو 4 سنة عشان in order for us to implement the remaining goals.
But we just hope for the best, right?
Yeah,
Nitwakkal
yeah,
lillah.
we do.
But when it comes to information and being educated as youth, yeah, how do you think like the media and the information literacy contribute to empowering youth for the sustainable development? Because like I bet someone who have just watched this or been watching us, it's their first time even hearing about SDG, in which this will be part of the literacy of people not knowing or not having enough knowledge about sustainable development goals. But with you being around, like, how do you think media and information literacy contribute to the empowering of the youth into this?
Well, if youths are utilizing the media in the proper way, they can engage in global webinars
Okay.
that tackle issues related to the SDG and best practices on how, because we can also adapt from other countries what they have done to achieve those development that they have in their countries, and then we can use it in our own country. So I think that's one of the ways how youths can strive to attain the sustainable development by engaging in webinars. And also youths like us who know about the SDG goals, we can share our experiences on social media, like Facebook, Twitter, and then it will trigger the other youths out there who doesn't know anything about the SDG goals to go and research more on it and how they can also contribute to it. So I think engaging in social media in the best way will help us to attain the SDG goals.
Okay. In the other hand, I feel like some of the youth maybe زول البان انا بكون قاعد تتشجر او قاعد يقول لك ده المعلومة تنجرحها وكده SDG شنو في زمن بتاع هسه. What can you be telling them, because like this is still part of the literacy and not having enough knowledge about all these goals?
Well, أنا متأكد 70% of the youth in South Sudan have access to Facebook.
Yes.
When you look at Facebook,
Actually, we are number one in Africa.
yes, I'm not sure if they're number one, but most of them have access to Facebook. And there are activists all around the world who do advocacy on these topics,
Yes.
the SDGs, and things like ending poverty in
Yes.
Uganda, the activists who are doing that, and climate action as well, like Greta Thunberg from Sweden.
Yes.
So she has a movement, Fridays for Change movement. It came up in 2018
Yes.
about the climate action and all that. So I feel that the young people should use the Facebook or should use the social media in the right way, as she has stated. And not only that, you know, when you're online, when you're online, you have social media, make sure that you use it to network with others from the other countries instead of just ranting online and making noise and at some point insulting yourselves and whatever. You can use the media in the right way to learn about the SDGs. We might not talk about all the SDGs at the moment, but I think if you just Google something on it, you can learn. And then after Googling about the SDGs, you can choose one that you can advocate on. I feel like everybody has the right to speak on these SDGs. For example, poverty. One of the SDGs said talks about no ending poverty in the whole world. In South Sudan, most of us, let me say, we are poor at the moment because there are no agricultural activities that are ongoing. So, for example, you can take one of these SDGs and you start advocating about it. And you can actually make a difference because one voice plus another can also can make a difference. So I feel that we should not just look at some of these topics as بس كلامات فارغ ولا شنو الناس تجرحوها وناس ديروا ونسوا كتير ما كده. لكن حياة ديل له مهم شديد in order for us to develop our country.
That's for sure. In another hand, like you mentioned earlier on about some strategy. Which strategy do you think like it's going to really be effective on youth? Because like Hase Nisba or the population to South Sudan, 75% are youth. What strategy that some of the youth which are advocating or even are trying to push for SDG in our communities?
Okay, first strategy that I think is main is making youths the main stakeholders of the project.
Okay.
If you want your project to succeed and you want the youths to be part of it, then you should engage them fully. If you put them as their stakeholders, of course, they will love to do that thing because you have categorized them and you make them on the project. So they will do it willingly. And also, you should always think of projects that align with what the youths want. You cannot bring something that we don't want and you want us to do it. Of course, we are not going to do it. And even if we do it, we are not going to do it with our full spirit. So if you're planning on doing a project, you should do it aligning with what we want. And of course, we are going to do it fully. And then the next thing from what you asked before, I think these SDG goals, they are not something that is out from our context. It is what we are actually living. It is this poverty, environmental conservation, gender equality. These are the things that our daily experiences of life. So they are not just things that we want to impose on people, but it is things that we are experiencing and we are trying to look on the best ways possible on how we can attain it and then live peacefully.
Okay, you can add?
Just to add on that, I think شفت حاليا most of these projects that are being implemented in South Sudan يعني زول بعمل project proposal حقه من UK or maybe from US
Copy paste.
based on their context ما context بتاع جنوب and then they just send these projects here, then these NGOs around they apply to it يلا بدك they are asked to implement it in the same way it is written يلا تلقى the context بتاع جنوب is different. So I think those who are working on projects on SDGs, the donors who support these organizations and the people who work on that, make sure that Shabab El Fi Junub should be part of the planning process. Because if I'm part of the planning process, I will know how beneficial it is. يلا هي برنامج to deal with the youth, make it fun. يكون يعني حاجة كده ممتع يعني.
Something we want.
Not something boring. يعني مثلا a football tournament or SDG مثلا.
Or maybe like the cultural that was done for UNFPA.
Yes.
I think most youths went before.
في شباب كتار فاتوا فيه. And even these football matches تلقى يعني معظم من شباب يمشوا في حياة ده.
Yes.
So if it's engaging, if it can connect with them in mostly في South Sudanese context, we can the young people can support it. Like in حاجة بعملوا on the context of حواجات or maybe other countries, you find شباب بيشوفوا ده حاجات بتاع منظمات وشنو. They don't see it as something that is expressing
them.
how
us,
haya ma كويس لهم.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting that whenever that we are speaking from our hearts, it's always from us, the youth, because like Hasim Wade said, some of the points I and you yourself who is watching, you haven't gotten to know about it. That's why as the Youth Pulse podcast, I guess always be enlightening us with more knowledge about some different topics that we are having. And as for today, we are having power of youth in driving sustainable development goals. Gibali kan kalamna inu the gap, the intergenerational gap. I feel like it also contribute into SDG. I don't know, in a sort of a way, in which today people are celebrating the International Day for Elderly People, in which Phoebe Gafi Hajis Ben Shabab, they cannot communicate to the elders cannot communicate to the Shabab, and everything is just messed up in between.
I think mess the gauge لأنه في شباب بيقولوا حاجات بتاع ياباد ده حاجات بتاع زمان. ياباد which the elderly they also say the same. They say ده حاجات بتاع شباب بتاع عماد ده وشنو.
Yeah.
But if you bring elderly and the young together,
Yes.
in order for them to talk on some of these issues, they can find solutions.
Yeah.
Masalan, when you look at our parliament at the moment, the parliament is dominated by elderly people.
Yes. For sure.
Yalla, the group of young people there, Bisit Khalis.
Yes.
I don't know if it can even reach 30% of the members of the parliament.
Despite that, the population 75%
The population
youth.
is 70% youth.
Yeah.
So Ana Shaif, if we can engage young people in decision-making processes,
Yes.
yani, before you decide for somebody, make sure you engage them as well. If we engage the young people, yalla al elders to discuss together what is good, how they can achieve these goals together, we can actually bridge that gap. But if we don't do that, the decision can be made there, like it can not favor the youth.
That's for sure.
Masalan can shabab fokum ba'amulu decision, al maybe favor the elderly. So you see there will be a conflict here.
Yes.
So I think it's just good to engage the two parties together. You talk, and then you see the way forward.
That's for sure, because like even like it's just working hand in hand, as you mentioned. There's experience and there's energy. Once you just match it together, it'll just be a perfect
Can
game.
have a fruitful work.
That's for sure. In another hand, like how can innovation and entrepreneurship among youth be fostered to address environmental and social challenges?
Innovation, it is going deep into yourself and seeing what you see can be done to address a problem
Yeah.
that your community is facing. So I think every youth and everyone is unique and they have a capacity to come up with something. But always, whenever we come up with something new, we always question ourselves. Like, what if my idea is not accepted? Is the community really going to see me as a normal person or crazy? Now, will I be supported?
Yeah.
Like, you have questions that will make you to drop from even just sharing that idea with a friend. So what I will encourage is we should always look into our uniqueness and accept our innovation as unique. And maybe it may not be relevant to my friend. If I share with my friend and he disagree, I will go on to the next person and share with that
Really
person.
find the right
Yeah,
person.
maybe it will make sense to that person, and then I'll come up with something. And also another thing is financial crisis. Sometimes I may come up with an innovative idea, but I will see who will fund this and where will I get support from. So it always doesn't mean that finance is the most important thing that you should have before creating change. You can start doing it with the little that you have. I always insist on self-funding. We always buy clothes for ourselves. Maybe you can take 100 USD that you use for buying a new clothes and then use it to implement that innovative idea that you have come up with. And I just call for support to our innovative ideas. When you see somebody with an innovative idea, you can look for a person that you see can be of help to that youth, and then that idea will develop into something good.
That's for sure.
I think there are so many things that can be done.
Yeah.
When you look at our country at the moment, entrepreneurship ideas and innovative ideas are not that supported much, even by the government itself.
Yes.
في دول تلقى the government give
Fun,
young
yeah, for new
entrepreneurs
innovative.
يعني قروش بسيط so
Yeah.
that they can begin their business وحاجة كده. If we can have the same thing here, then بكون تمام. Then I've seen also Orange Corners
Yes.
He's trying to do something.
Yes.
it's an incubator
Yes.
and entrepreneurship accelerator,
Yes. With
mostly for these
Kingdom of
small
Netherlands.
businesses.
Yeah.
So if we have such kind of institutions in our country that can support young entrepreneurs and young innovators, we can be able to achieve this
That's
change.
for sure.
And the government should also, as I said before, should invest in the vocational training centers and should also invest in the universities. There are so many intelligent students out there who have ideas, like they don't have a space where they can showcase them.
Yes.
So if we can, if the government can fund the universities, if they can also fund the vocational training centers,
Yes.
these ideas can be realized and they should also be supported. We should not discourage زول كان جاب innovative idea وحاجة كده ما تمام يعني بنزل moral بتاع شباب and somebody can just back out.
That's for
But the
sure.
point is not to give up. Just be persistent and continue doing what you're good at.
Okay. With you mentioning some of the challenges, what do you think the challenges faced by youth working towards sustainable and how they can overcome them? Because someone might get something, but they get discouraged. People because this thing is not for you. This thing is not for our country. في مشاكلات زي دي اللي بواجه some of the advocates and the activists that we're having in our country.
Yeah, I think one of the challenges is people leaving you to stand alone because mostly with activism there are critics, and then when you start facing too many critics, your friends may start going away from you,
Yes.
and then you're just left alone there, and then stranded. You don't know what to do next. I think that one, if you know that you are advocating or for a just cause, you should continue on doing that. You should not give up, because after some time you will see the fruits of your work. So I don't see that if I am alone in advocating for climate change, I should stop doing that because there is no one who is supporting me. All my friends have left me because I'm not giving them anything for helping me out. So I should give up. So giving up is not the option.
Okay. Any
I think one of
overcome?
the challenges that are facing most of the advocates and activists in South Sudan is intimidation. مثلا there are activists who advocate on the need for peace, in strong institutions and justice in the country. طبعا there are people who are advocating for that, but they did not realize, Hayat Dalla, it's also part of the sustainable development goals. So مثلا تلقى if somebody advocates about peace, طبعا there are people who love war.
Yeah.
I don't know what is good in
Naturally
يعني
كده.
ما في شنو كويس في حرب.
Yeah.
Just look at Israel at the
Yes.
moment with Palestine. ناس
Yeah.
بيموتوا and South Sudanese we have also died so many years.
2016, 2013.
يعني تلقى زول بيadvocate for peace and you find people start criticizing you.
Yes.
أو تلقى intimidation from specific individuals out there. And it discourages them from moving forward. And as she said, there's also lack of support. Yani people who advocate on these sustainable goals, they're not supported and all that. And in most cases, مثلا somebody can come up with an advocacy role, but they are not consistent in it due to some challenges, maybe financial issues, because in most cases advocacy there are resources. For example, if I'm advocating on planting of trees
Yes.
in all over South Sudan, so for you to start وش هي صعب لأنه تلقى يعني a tree seedling صغير كده كان بسيط
مكلف.
15,000. So you cannot start with one, at least you should have 5 so there are people who face it hard.
Yes.
في ناس ما شغالين, they're just students and they're managing, but all in all as you said, self-funding is also fine. يعني بخليك تكون عنده exposure. Then the other point is most of these activists they don't use social media in the right way.
Yes.
يعني
They use it for only posting pictures, selfies.
حياة كده. So as an advocate, إذا أنت advocate on one of these sustainable development goals, make sure that you're persistent on it. يعني if قد تعمل posting 3 مرات في يوم, it should just be on that. If
Yes.
it's no poverty, just be persistent, just like what others do.
Yeah.
لكن أنت كان بيدخل, for example, you're talking about peace. تدخل peace بعد شوية memes بجاي وشنو يعني it confuses your
Yeah,
followers.
yeah.
يعني في ناس they can follow you just for the memes
Because
that
of the
you're
content,
doing.
yeah.
You find that you keep on attracting people, the wrong followers, manners that can support you on that.
Yes.
يعني مثلا زول بيشوف انت you're focusing on that, you maybe this guy is just about memes and all that. So be persistent, be consistent on whatever you're doing. If it's no poverty, focus on it. If it's zero hunger, focus on it. And make sure you also network with other activists from other
Yes.
countries so that
Yes.
they can share with you their experience, and you also share with them your experiences as well, and they can help you out and you see the way forward.
Okay.
Okay, just to add on what you were saying, there is something called volunteer misconduct that I just learned on Saturday from a friend who is an advocate for education. So he has been conducting quizzes for secondary school students here in Juba. And unfortunately, because he trusted a volunteer, he said the volunteer should print for him the exams, and the volunteer leaked the exam.
Wow.
So you see, like that, if you're striving for something, and then it creates a different mentality in your beneficiaries because they will see that it's useless. So I think when recruiting people, even if they may be your friend, your relatives, or what,
Yeah.
but you should make sure that they are trusted people, because you cannot just risk your activity for something which you do not even intend.
That's for sure.
Like that, it is degrading the name of your organization or any other activity that you would like to conduct. People won't trust it.
And by the way, such activities is not done by someone who is 35 years old or even more than 40. You being 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, whatever age that you are, it's not necessarily that you need to be having money, because already Beatrice mentioned that you can do your self-funding. Instead of you going and eat at this fancy restaurant, or even you buying that nice shoes or that Air Jordan that you love to wear, you can just pick it a little bit safe. كان الليلة ضرب تلموا 3 شهر 4 شهر بعد كده boom, everything will start. By the way, في بداية أي حاجة بيجيني في challenges, لكن with consistency and with the energy and the ambition, you'll just determination always put you in a position that you want to be at any cost. But when it comes to the last conversation, what are some actions that you think a youth can take to contribute in SDG on their daily basis?
As I said before, engage with the policymakers.
Yes.
If you engage with the policymakers, you can raise your concerns to them and they can work on it. If they don't work on it, follow up. And if they don't also work on it, there is also another option. You can support people who are advocating for the SDGs. For example, there are politicians out there who support the SDGs. You can support such kind of people. And if you do, you will be heard. And make sure you use the social media in the right way.
That's for sure.
Yani, if you use the social media in the right way by posting about these sustainable development goals, Kulu Zaman, you are making awareness out there. Finance work there, yes, now. How you can, if you have the capacity, you can go to schools, you talk about it. You'll find that you're making a change. You might not realize it now, like in the impact of your work will be seen later.
So as an advocate of climate change, I'll just urge that these sustainable development goals, these are not something out of our context. It's something we are living with. And so I would just urge, as youths, we should always mind how we litter the environment. You should always use the dustbin in the proper way. So if you have your trash, even at home, you look for the best way possible of how to dispose it. Don't dispose by your school, in your school compound, workplace, or by the roadside.
That's why they say keep Juba clean and green.
Yes. And another thing also, as he said earlier, that we should take an interest in one of the SDG goals and then advocate for it. You may be a lover of your mother, and then you may choose to advocate for gender equality, or maybe for your dad, or whatsoever goal that you're interested in, and then put it as an introduction in in your social media account, so that when somebody gets into your account and then just see that, oh, this one is advocating for peace, and then I'm also advocating for peace, then like that we can network and create a collusion that may bring a change in our community. So I will just ask that we take an interest into an SDG goal, research more on it, and then put it in our lifestyle.
Whenever it comes to the Youth Pulse podcast, because we're speaking from our heart, but we came to an end with our today episode, in which we have been talking about power of youth in driving sustainable development goals with our guests today. Hope it was of a benefit. That's why you need to be share, liking, and comment so that we can reach this message to many youth who are outside there. But from me to you, there's passion in everything that we are doing, and definitely it's a beacon of hope guiding us towards to more of a equitable and a sustainable tomorrow. Remember, every small action count, and together we can turn the tide. For me, Diko De Andrew, have a very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening.
The Youth Pulse podcast, speaking from our hearts.